Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review The 355. And this is a new action thriller from director Simon Kinberg, who for the longest time has been a producer and worked on a lot of films like the X-Men films, but actually directed Dark Phoenix. And you have this film where, I don't know, the way that he directs the film and portrays the film just makes it feel like one of those throwaway action thrillers. The action isn't shot particularly well. There's a lot of over-reliance on quick edits and stuff like that. And action movie snob over here, Shane Kanto, is just like, it's okay at best. And there's nothing particularly interesting about any of the action set pieces either. Except like the idea of like this whole thing being a group of women kicking butt. And which is interesting because they subvert a lot of things where like most of the men in this get like murked easy, and you're just like, oh, it's kind of like how they treat a lot of women in like earlier action movies, which I think if they really played into that subversion would have been interesting, but they don't. It kind of just happens. And overall, it's a very stuffed plot because you do have to try to introduce these 5 different women, and they get trickled in throughout, and there's a lot of who's on whose side, who's doing what the hell's this movie about. It's very convoluted plot to this film, which like it doesn't help that the action also isn't great. This just kind of feels like a bit of a mess at times. Some of these actresses really get underplayed, especially like Bingbing Fan, who's the last one to get introduced into the film. Everybody else, like the other 4, get a decent amount of screen time and fleshing out a bit in this film. They do put in an effort to try to give them all dimensions, and a lot of it relies heavily on like they have people that they care about, and that's used very heavily for big emotional moments in the film. And I feel like that's where it gives some depth to the film, but also feels very tropey, and that's the thing too. So I'm not going to say much, but there's one particular character who has a particular fate, and then turns out that that fate's not what you originally were meant to think that it is, but you know 100% what's going on because you've seen movies before. So there's a lot of like, wow, they did that twist. And it's just like, you could see it coming a mile away. And also, like, the casting doesn't help, I think, in terms of like how important, like, big name some people are in this film. It feels very unbalanced and trying to balance all of these different moving pieces. And I think one of the hardest things is they're trying to really do a lot of setup for something like, oh, we can have more of these films in the future. And I think they'll be able to focus more on like the mission and what's interesting about that, and trying to set up all these people. And, you know, certain films just kind of jump into it. Like, I'm thinking like The Expendables. They don't spend like tons of time trying to set up characters in that film. Like, they're there. They show weird, quirky aspects of their personalities, and you just kind of get used to the characters. Not saying like The Expendables are the best films, but like they don't have to get bogged down in, because like this is trying to be like basically female Expendables, except more serious. That has a lot more serious tone. Like there is some like snarking back and forth, but like this is more of a serious action thriller. But when it really comes down to it, I think all the women at the front of this film give strong performances. Lupita Nyong'o in particular, Jessica Chastain, Diane Kruger, and Penelope Cruz has a lot of vulnerability and where she fits into the story. And there's definitely emotional beats. It's an interesting setup. And you know what? I would probably see a story that's more focused on just them as a team in the future versus all of this messy setup that this particular film winds up giving us. But those are my thoughts on the 355. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.